All right, guys, we're going to take a look at land, labor, capital. This is lesson 5.4. Don't have slides to go with this, but what we're going to figure out is how exactly do you price the factors of resource like land, labor, capital. A lot of this we've gone over before, and so I think some of it will make some sense as we start to go through it. What is the wage level established in the market for crude oil? Just simply the point where our demand and our supply intersect with one another here at $75. Why is the supply of land usually more inelastic, right? If we're talking the supply of land, we're talking about, this whole blue line and how it looks a little bit more like an eye. Why is it a little bit more inelastic than any of the other resources? Simply put, whenever we're taking a look at it, land is the most scarce. Land is scarce. I mean, you think about how expensive land is just, shoot, in Texas, in the Austin area. Land itself is a pretty scarce resource overall. The quantity tends to be more fixed. I can't just add more land. The only way I can do that is if I buy it from somebody else. Simply put, suppose that the price of gasoline, a finished product made from crude oil, increases on the graph. Draw the change that will occur based on that, okay? So think it back to our PPP and our PIN. Suppose that the price increases. So that's another, the finished product that we could make from it, it increases. So we'll see and I wish I made this in red. Our demand line is going to increase. And so you can call this D2 right there. So overall, what's going to happen is the price goes up, or the wage goes up for that, and the quantity goes up for it as well. And this is talking about specifically land and the market for crude oil, because obviously you need land to have crude oil. Moving on down, how did the change in product price impact the wage rate in the crude oil market? The increase in the demand for gas caused an increase, as we just looked at. It caused an increase in the wage rate through the derived demand, through the demand increasing. The supply remains a little bit more inelastic, and so just that slight little that change in the quantity had that pretty big change in the wage rate, as we're just looking at. The more fixed quantity of oil supplied, any change in the demand for oil will cause a significant change in the wage rate for the oil market. Based on the inelastic supply of demand, how important is demand in the market for land? Demand is the most significant driving force as far as land is concerned. If you want to know why land gets so expensive, that's because a lot of people like it. More so than any other factor or resource or thing that somebody can buy, demand is extremely important. So go ahead and fill out this chart. You're going to be able to do it. You got to find MP. You got to find MRP. Remember, MP is found by the change in our total product. Change in TP divided by our change in input. Oh, I can't write with my mouse. Change here divided by change here. That'll get you here. To get our MRP, you multiply that MP times the price and go the whole way down from here. And you should be able to note what you need to go through for that right there. Notice this third question, how does MRP and MRC play a role? Remember, you're trying to find where MRP is equal to MRC, or as you go down where it is just slightly right before. You also need to note that the price of the products produced by the land increases, and then see some of the changes that will play out right there for that. Okay, so that's land. Let's move over to labor. Labor is going to play out in the same way, where it's $30 for our wage level that gets established. How would a legal minimum wage set at 40? So let's say we're up to 40 up here. Forgive my horrible writing right now. Okay, how would a legal minimum wage set at 40 change this a little bit? Well, we'll notice that we'll be there, and we'll end up seeing the supply being greater than the demand, so we'll see a surplus. Got all these tools on here for me to write with. Woo. Surplus of labor, right? Because the amount that is willing to be supplied is greater than the amount that's willing to be demanded right there. Because the wage is higher, workers will be willing to supply themselves for more dollars. Suppose that factory workers go on strike when the proposed minimum wage is voted down in Congress on the graph provided. Draw the change, okay? So if they're going on strike, what does that look like? Well, that means there's going to be fewer workers there to supply themselves as labor. And so our S is going to go to the left right here. As a result of that, we see that the wage is going to go up and the quantity of workers is going to go down. How does the labor strike impact the wage rate? We just said it. The wage rate will go up. Fewer workers, right? If everybody's going on strike to try to get those workers back, you're going to have to pay them what they need to get paid. So by all means, it could go up to that $40, but then as a result of that, you're only going to hire so many of them, which means some of those workers are getting fired that went on strike. That's not super ideal. How does the change in the wage rate affect production costs for the firm that require factory labor? Thinking about this, they have to pay these workers a little bit more. What's going to happen? Well, their total cost will go up. When the wage rate increases due to the labor strike, it will become more expensive for firms who rely on factory labor to hire workers. As a result, the cost of production for these firms increase because they have to pay for more labor. Yikes. Same thing here. Fill out MP, fill out MRP. You should be able to do that with this. And notice that this changes as well. You're going to need to rework this right here. And you can do that. Let's talk about capital a little bit. The wage level established in the market for steel, $90, same thing. How would a legal price ceiling set at $700 per ton impact the market for steel? Okay, so we have a price ceiling that gets set right here. What's playing out right here? Well, the demand for it is far outweighing what is being willing and able to be supplied at that capital. So now we have all of a sudden a shortage. A shortage because the demand is greater than our supply right there. Going back to what happens whenever a price ceiling gets set. As a result, the firms are going to find it hard to find enough steel to produce goods, and they're going to feel the pressure to end up paying higher wages back for it. Suppose that the number of steel producing firms increases when a monopolistic firm is broken up. Oh, we love that. What's going to happen? They are going to be more willing to supply the steel. So S is going to go here. This will be S2. So all of those workers are going to have to find somewhere else to work. All of a sudden here we see our wage going down. We see our quantity going up. How does breaking up this monopoly impact the wage rate that gets set in the market? We see that the wage goes down, which we just said. And how does this change in the wage rate affect production costs for firms that require steel? When the wage rate for steel decreases due to an increase in the number of steel producing firms in the industry, it will become less expensive for firms to buy steel as a resource for production. We see that playing out right here, where we're right here with that supply line changing. So more firms in the market. Okay. Should be able to fill this out. You should be able to fill this out. And that is 5.4.